My childhood was sheltered, to say the least. My mother did everything in her power to try to protect my brother and me from the tumultuous upbringing she had in Los Angeles in the 60s and 70s. As soon as she could, she moved us to a suburb far outside of LA city limits. As an educator, her main goal was to put us in a school district that could facilitate a learning environment without the risk of gang influence in our lives. For the most part, her efforts paid off. The city I grew up in was predominantly white. The schools I attended were recognized as California's most distinguished schools. My brother and I were placed firmly on the college-bound track, something that may have been unattainable if we grew up in the LA area. There was even some semblance of diversity in my schools. Though most of my classmates were white, it was definitely nice not being the only black girl in my classes. I even had a fairly inclusive friend group. My mother would jokingly refer to me and my friends as the Rainbow Coalition, simply because we were so diverse. The unintended consequence of the move, however, was that I would become desensitized to explicit racist acts. Instances of discrimination still managed to penetrate that protective bubble she tried so hard to cultivate for us. My friends would constantly make offensive jokes and remarks to me growing up, but I never cared. I encouraged it, took part in it. I remember one of my Latino friends holding their hand up, waiting for me to give them a high five, and then making a comment when I didn't reciprocate the gesture.
Come on, don't leave me hanging like your ancestors.
Oh! Yeah, well, after your cousins picked the fruit off the tree for my salsa, what you gonna do? Oh! My mother couldn't protect us from this, nor did I seek her protection. I believed I could fit in if I made similar offensive jokes. These comments were not necessarily limited to my friend circle. Racism leaked into my mom's carefully crafted bubble from all sides. I remember an instance when my mother was driving me, my brother and me home from a day of running errands. There was a new shopping center not too far from my house, and we thought it would be a nice family outing to go and explore it. We were trying a new route from home and ended up lost down some residential street. My mother was driving slowly, looking around, trying to gain her bearings. And apparently she was driving far too slowly for the driver behind her. As my mother pulled over to let the other driver pass, the woman, very angry and very white, pulled up next to our car and shouted as loud and as clear as she could, "Nigger!" before speeding off. My mother, very much a militant, then as she is now, proceeded to chase the woman down. I somehow managed to help my mom realize that this was a bad plan. And we continued on our way home. I can't take full credit, as my mother rationally concluded that there could possibly be an angry redneck at the end of this with a shotgun ready to shoot some black folk. Literally her words. Despite all the instances of explicit racism that leaked into our protective sphere, beyond all the offensive comments that were directed towards us, it was never these overt acts that had a major effect on me. It was the constant reinforcement of the implicit discrimination that really stuck. It was what I grew up with and what I have personally internalized. That day when that woman shouted, "Nigger," at my mother was definitely unpleasant, but it felt insignificant compared to how it feels hearing,
"Black women are just wholly unattractive."
Loud.
Aggressive.
Until recently, these ideas were reinforced in every movie, every television show, every commercial, every magazine ad. In some ways, they still are. Seeing Cookie on Empire or Tyler Perry performing his famed Medea act has done little to quell these ideals. To hear these ideas get verbalized not only by white people, but also by other minority groups and black people who say they would never be with a black woman for these exact reasons is disheartening. The instant my mother decided to angrily chase after that other driver was the instant that an ugly stereotype was confirmed in my brother's head, one that he had vocalized time and again. Black women really are aggressive. That sticks with me more than the words of a disgruntled white woman ever could.